Sip of coffee to the working man. Got a great show for you today. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Every Tuesday, 12 p.m. Eastern Time on YouTube. You know where to find me. Taking questions, talking bench all day here. Check out our podcast episodes every Thursday, Spotify. We got some good ones coming up. The Benchcast on Spotify, iTunes, wherever you listen to podcasts. Gonna let some more people file in here. Get your cues. Make sure you're following us on Instagram at Big Benches on Instagram. Post a lot of great stuff up over there as well to help you out with your benching. New news, our 2021 planning guide is now out. So you can go to bigbenches.com and download that. That is absolutely free. We do this every year. Helps tremendously plan your goals, set your action plan, achieve results. All right, guys. 2021 Lifters Planning Guide, bigbenches.com. Make sure you go and get yourself that. All right. Let's get into today's show. So, first up, question coming in from Instagram the other day. Ultra high reps for tricep tendon. So, utilizing higher reps here to build tendon strength. Sounds good. I think it's a great idea. Okay. To really let the muscles fatigue, continue pushing through past that fatigue, that failure, start to develop some tendon strength. And you'll hear a lot of big benchers commonly refer to them doing like sets of 50 plus rep push downs in order to develop that tendon strength. Okay, so I think it's a great idea. In my personal experience regarding high rep triceps, I did not notice a huge difference. You know, there's a lot of variables and factors that could go into this, but when I did do those things, when I did do a lot of high rep triceps, warmed up with more tricep variations, me personally, that was actually a period of time where I was actually quite beat up the bench press. Now, there's a lot of other factors that go into it. You know, there was a period of time where I wasn't getting routine deep tissue massage, and I've talked about how much that benefits me, how key that can be. So there's a lot that goes into it, but when I was doing a lot of that high rep tricep stuff with the idea to, all right, let's build some tendon strength and all that, I actually didn't feel that great benching, and I couldn't bench more than twice a week. More than 2 weeks in a row in a bench shirt, as opposed to now, where my tricep training really involves about maybe 2 sessions a week where I just hit the triceps, I smoke the triceps with like 5 or 6 different movements. And I'll do accessory days where I just hit triceps. And I've been healthy up to this point. Bi-weekly deep tissue massage. I've been in the shirt every week for the most part. No plans to get out of the shirt. You know, I'm recovering on a week-to-week basis. I'm feeling great going into those sessions, so we're going to keep this rolling. But that was just my personal experience with doing high reps for the triceps. I didn't really notice much of a difference in terms of how it affected my ability to recover or build resiliency to avoid pain or discomfort. You know, I didn't really experience any giant benefits there that would make me want to include that as a staple of programming. Okay. It doesn't mean I don't do some higher rep stuff like that with our athletes. You know, a lot of times I'll assign our athletes to do like 100 face pulls a day, or I feel like they need some additional triceps. We'll add an additional tricep session, or we'll do some more volume throughout the days. Like just hook up a band wherever you're at and do 100 push downs, stuff like that. We got a great question. I'm going to actually turn this into a podcast, this question. And we're talking about carryover from a bench shirt to raw work. And I know a lot of people are interested in hearing my answer on this. All right. Does the shirt help you become a better raw bencher? All right. And I would say it works much better reversed. So, being a better raw bencher will certainly help you a lot more in the bench shirt. Whereas a bench shirt might not necessarily help you at all for your raw bench. One thing you're all going to get a benefit out of is proper overload. Okay, getting used to handling really heavy weights in your hand. Obviously, that's going to be a huge benefit of the bench shirt. So that's going to help anyone with their raw work. Where it won't help you is it actually detrains the bottom position of the bench because the shirt's taking up so much tension. You don't really train your chest or your shoulders to a high degree. And whereas most people need to build their raw benches in the bottom of the bench press. So bench shirt will actually detrain that quite a bit. And my experience, way more times do I see an athlete spend time on a shirted benching cycle, go back to trying to do any significant weight raw, and find it was a huge detriment to them. Okay. However, if you bench in a bench shirt and your weak point's raw, all right, and all things considered, good bottom position in the bench press, you're utilizing your back properly. Say you do have a lockout issue with your raw bench, or you need to develop more tricep strength, the shirt will help do that for you. So it's really one of those scenarios where I'd say large majority, a shirt is not going to have a huge carryover to someone's raw bench. Versus vice versa, I think any strong raw benching is going to benefit shirted benching in a big way. Okay, but carryover in the other direction, only if you have a very specific lockout weak point, which in fact many actually don't. Longer arm benchers certainly do, but from my experience, very few have an actual lockout tricep weakness when it comes to the raw bench. It's mostly bottom position or just poor mechanics, like they're using momentum to get the bar going. That's usually what I find. So that's a great question. I actually want to delve into that a bit more. So expect that to be a podcast, maybe even this week's podcast. Again, you can check us out, the Benchcast on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. I've actually been using the Google Podcasts app lately to listen to my different podcasts. Got another question here. Well, actually, let's see what's going on YouTube here. You can drop your questions down below, guys. What's up, Adil? Sip of coffee to all my homies in Sherman, Oklahoma. I assume that's Oklahoma. Sip of coffee to Adil's homies, Sherman, Oklahoma. Sip of coffee to the working man. David, hey Coach Ben, how do you determine optimal bench press grip width? So Nadil commented, depends how wide you are. That absolutely matters as well. Someone's individual structure is going to be a big factor into what grip you're going to take. But where I'd like to see people start, if you're not sure whether you're better off in a wider grip or a closer grip, is to get into a grip where you have great alignment in the bottom position. And that is going to be, first, position your elbows 45 degrees out from your body. Okay, so you're not winged up here. You're not tucked in, touching your body. You're 45 degrees out. Okay, position your wrists in the bottom position, your wrists over your elbows. And where that line would be where the bar is, that's going to be your grip and your touch point. Okay, it's all based off alignment. Elbows 45 out from the body. Get your wrist positioned directly over your elbows. And then where that bar is, that's your grip. And then that's your touch point. Really simple, easy place to start. From there, you can start to experiment. If I go a little wider, how strong am I there? If I go a little closer, How strong am I there? Okay, there's going to be variance, and you're not always going to have perfect alignment. Obviously, with a really wide grip, your wrists are going to be outside your elbows a little bit, but there's a cut and range of motion there. Closer grip, you're able to load your lats a little bit more effectively. You're able to get more triceps in through the lockout. So, it's really a game of give and take and finding your specific strengths and weaknesses, but that would be a default position, would be what I just described to you right there. Okay, that's where I would start someone if they're not sure where to take their grip, where to aim their touch point, whatever. Sip of coffee to the working man. I got my beast mug today. I forget how many ounces this thing holds, but I figured, hey, I woke up. One cup's not going to do it. Let's get the beast mug going. Sip of coffee. Thank you for everyone tuning in today. Drop your questions down below. Let's talk some benching. Let's get some bigger benches in 2021. I have a really big goal to help as many lifters as possible hit bench PRs next year. I want to say 100 is certainly doable. All right, and I'm hoping anyone that I can help influence, reach out to me. Let me know, hey, I hit a big PR. I have people tell me that all the time. Hey, watch your videos. Hit this new PR. Thanks so much. Love that stuff, guys. I actually take that. I screenshot most of those awesome comments, and I put them in their own little gallery, photo gallery thing on my phone, because I love looking back at those and just seeing how many lifters were able to impact. And 2021, I want to be able to influence 100 lifters to hit bench PRs. Hopefully, you're one of them. Let's get started now. Let's not wait. Let's get started now. So drop your cues. Let's bench bigger in 2021. Adia, how do you help with those who struggle with keeping their fists straight in the bench? I always naturally avert back to bent wrists. So first thing I would look at is just how you're setting your grip and the bar placement in your hand. So if you're just grabbing the bar, you're not going to end up with a good bar placement, nor are you going to have a tight grip. So if you're just kind of casually grabbing onto the bar, I'm not even talking about bending or anything like that, just how you grab the bar. All right. If you're just grabbing the bar, you're probably missing something. What I would recommend is, like, if you've seen J.M. Blakely, he had a great little trick for this. One way to explain it, you make a diamond with your hand, and you can see how you take your palms, they're inverted a little bit. All right, that's how you want to latch onto the bar. Dig this webbing in first. Okay, and then you can crank down on the bar. So if the bar's here, right, get a hold of it. All right, see it's on the bottom of my hand, that meat there in my hand, and dig and crank in. That's gonna help push all that slack and hand meat up. Okay, and that's also gonna get that bar nice and deep, because that bar is not gonna sit straight across. Ideally, you're not gonna have that situation where the bar is across your mid hand. That would definitely contribute to your wrist getting bent back. You want it right in the middle of the thumb meat, right on top of there. You can see if you guys are watching here. And then through the bottom of the hand. So that bars can come out real low on the other side. If the bar is not in that position, probably going to experience some difficulties with keeping your wrist straight. First thing I would look at. Second thing would be if I just cue them to keep a stronger wrist position, keep the knuckles up. What that looks like, if that corrects anything. Because sometimes you just need to be more aware of what's going on throughout the course of the bench. If that's still an issue, there's some drills that I like to do. One would be holding a kettlebell upside down. Okay, because that's going to teach you really how that bar should be aligned, coming straight down to the forearm. Because that's really what we're after when we're talking wrist position on the bench press. We don't want to be bent back so much here that the bar is behind our forearm. And we can't be completely straight because the bar will be in front of our forearm. We need the wrist slightly bent back, bar really low in our hands, so we're punching right through our forearm, bottom of our palm. Think about if you did an open palm strike. All right, you're not going to hit someone with your fingertips. You're going to smack them right with the base of your palm. All right, so same thing applies to the bench. Holding kettlebell upside down is going to bring awareness to that, teach you how to align properly there. Also, the bulldog grip. Bulldog grip is pretty much keeping your fingertips curled on top of the bar. So your fingertips are touching the very top of the bar. It reinforces that knuckles up position. Okay, if your knuckles aren't aimed up, then you're doing it wrong. All right, so bulldog grip is a good teaching tool. Not a grip that I would actually bench with personally. A lot left to be desired there in terms of actually being able to bend into the bar and whatnot. So that's something I like to use as a teaching tool, but that's about the sum of it. Salmon fish. Very helpful channel. Wish you had a channel like this for squat and the deadlift. Yeah, we really niched down on the bench press, my friend. That's kind of our thing. It's kind of my thing. You know, I'm a bencher myself, although I do compete full power every now and then. And I do train the other lifts as well. But majority of our athletes that we coach are full power athletes. I'd say about 90% of them train full power. So I'm certainly regularly coaching squats and deadlifts. I just don't publish content on it. Unless you're in our membership site. If you're part of our membership site, go to bigbenches.com. I do post quite a bit other helpful tips on squatting, deadlifting, you know, and various accessories and different things that will help you out in your training. So that kind of opens up the realm to all the other things that I will give tips on too. Um, but in terms of our public content, that's strictly benching. Matt, I notice as I go heavier, my lockout is uneven. My right arm dominant side lags a little, and I have to actively think to get it up. Any ways to fix this? So I would just try to reinforce that while you're pressing. If you know that you're lagging on one side, you know, there will probably be a weight threshold where you're going to notice it more so than any other time. But it could be a strength imbalance. So that's why I would just first kind of check if one arm's stronger than the other in some different isometric type exercises, or rather iso exercises where you're doing one side unilateral work with your triceps. See if there's a glaring weakness there. Know what I like doing too for like shoulders, and you'd have to apply this to like triceps and stuff, but in terms of shoulder strength, I do like a single arm dumbbell press, and I've noticed some decent discrepancy side to side before. And we're not always going to be perfectly balanced, but I'd look first, is there a strength imbalance there? But I think mostly for that, you'll find a lot of success just cueing yourself as you're going through the bench. Like, you know, your right side lags, so you got to fire that through. I would do a lot of like neuro priming stuff. Like, I do the big bend holds before I bench. It really allows me to focus on that retraction with my back, which for me is the biggest thing. So I would just really focus on drills like that, where it's just you're just pressing into bands or something. So you could do like the big bend hold, but treat it as like reps and just focus on even firing of each tricep. Maybe you're activating one side a lot better than the other. So um, usually just something that I would try to work on through like banded drills, or just cueing yourself to be conscious of firing that lagging side. And then in time, it should help even things out. And especially with the heavier weights, what I noticed too is got to have very good control in your back, because that is going to help you with that bar path and creating that even press. Because if someone, you see a lot of teeter tottering with someone who's not connected with their back well. All right, if they're not, that bar's not coming down like it's a row, and there's a lot of activation and tightness in your back, or if that's not the case, that bar is kind of pitted in your chest, your shoulders, even, especially if it's not a pause bench and it's a little touch and go, then you see a lot of like that side to side teeter tottering, where one side's going to lock out um, over the other. If someone's very connected to their back, looks good, solid doing that, usually not going to see those issues as much. So hopefully that helps there, my friend. Adil, thanks for the tips. Absolutely. Adil at Deke Kadoma said in a seminar he does 10 sets every day on the bench. Goes against everything I've been taught. Yeah, so I mean, you're going to see outliers out there who will train the bench with that crazy frequency, and you'll see all kinds of stuff. Because there's programs from training every day to training once a week to training even twice a week. You know, you'll find programs out there, and you'd find people who found success doing those things. But it's one of those things. What's going to fit large majority of people? That might probably more often than not fit you. I know trying to do 10 sets of bench per week is just or per day is not going to help me whatsoever. I mean, my last shoulder session, I couldn't even straighten my arm out for the next couple days because of the shirt, how it dug into my tricep tendon. You know, it just felt like a big old inflamed arm. And it was actually bigger on that arm, and I couldn't really extend my arm, and you couldn't touch it. It'd be painful. Um, so it depends on your goals, depends what you're doing. If you're a beginner bencher and you're not quite at like a 300 bench, I mean, you're trying to push to 200. I could see at an early age you could definitely handle benching every day as long as the intensity is not too high. You know, at the end of the day, as long as we're not maxing out every day, we're probably going to be able to handle that type of training. Have I tried Smolov? No, I have not tried Smolov. I think maybe long ago, before I even really cared about powerlifting in specific, I might have tried doing something like that for my squats. Um, but it was not sustainable. I mean, I was burnt out pretty quick, and didn't feel good. You know, it's just and those high frequency programs definitely not a great sustainable thing. It's like doing a diet where you restrict yourself so much. It's just not something that's sustainable for you. So maybe it's a good plan for the month or whatever you might run it. Maybe you see some significant squat gains, but then you need to make sure you rest and then find an action plan for the rest of your training going forward, because that's certainly more of kind of like a shock value type thing, in my opinion. Adil says, when people ask how much you bench, do you say raw or shirt? So yeah, that's a tricky thing, um, because it doesn't bother anyone else that doesn't care. Any typical pedestrian, they're not gonna ask you, "Wow, is that a raw bench or a shirt bench?" They have no freaking clue. But for me, I know that it's almost like a little bit of deceit going into me telling them a number that's not raw. You know what I mean? Um, just because I figure they're expecting a raw bench number. So morally, I feel obligated to mention, oh, well, it's in a bench shirt. But lately, I don't give a shit. I'll just tell them the number, take it for what it is. It is what it is. I'll say 820. Leave me alone. I don't like conversating much with people who aren't lifters anyway, because conversation usually dies there. So I really don't give a shit anymore. I'll just tell them, hey, 820 is the number. Take it or leave it. Believe it or don't. Shit either way. I don't give a shit. Man, I also found incline presses really help my bench. Do you do a similar setup with an incline as a flat bench? Yeah, so I would try to mimic as many things as possible. Obviously, retracting the scaps together, depressing them down, trying to get that T spine extension, that chest lift. Um, I always had to be careful incline bench, because you'll find that there's this period, because it's such a dramatic change in range of motion, especially someone like me, totally changes everything that's working. You'll get to about like that mid range, and then it feels like a total dump on my shoulders. It doesn't feel like I can really load the lats anymore. Um, and there's that period I'm just so detrained there that I always tell everyone doing incline, because it's such a dramatic change, that typically if we do incline, it's not going to be full range. It's not going to be all the way down to the chest unless it's lightweight, but we're not going to try to hit no like 5 rep maxes or nothing incline with going all the way full ROM. Um, but the incline press, valuable movement. How I'll typically use that with our athletes, because majority probably don't have that setup available to them. You have to have an incline bench. Setting that up in the rack sometimes might get a little bit tough depending on what our athletes have access to. It's not something that's usually in my programming. We will probably make a lot more use of incline dumbbell pressing, because then you could even take like a flat bench and just prop it up on something. And I wouldn't really be as concerned as we're using dumbbells and we're trying to work that stability anyway. So I'll utilize incline dumbbell pressing large majority of the time over incline barbell press with our athletes. And more so with the raw lifters, I do have it sometimes in for our equipped lifters, especially those who aren't necessarily in your traditional poly shirts or denim, single ply, multiply, those new unlimited type shirts where they're like essentially band shirts, because those are going to be a bit different than if you were to use one of those more restricted poly shirts. Right, that material is meant to give more on you. There's more of that chest shoulder component in the bottom position. You need to be almost more strong like a raw bencher than a shirted bencher. So for raw athletes, those types of benchers, I will use incline dumbbell press a lot to build up the shoulders and chest. I also like using dumbbells as much as possible. I know not everyone has access to heavy dumbbells. If you train at a commercial gym, you're probably okay, but I like utilizing dumbbells where we can, just because of that added stability component, range of motion. I mean, you can really adjust however needed. You could come really low with those if wanted. Ben Brett, I like that name, my friend. Hey, Coach Ben, I've noticed I have overtucked elbows when I bench, and I'm starting to open them up or out now. Is it normal to feel it way more in my shoulders and chest? Yeah, absolutely. So that's gonna switch the curve to you doing a lot more with your chest and shoulders. But if you're a raw bencher, then that's appropriate, because the chest and shoulders are going to play a big role in a raw bench. While we want to try to make our back and our triceps the biggest prime movers of all, why you are feeling that transition, because if you are overtucked, there is going to be a huge component on having to get your triceps to finish that weight, because you're not in a great bottom position if you're overtucked, right? You're probably going to flare back pretty quick. And then you're just going to be a lot more tricep movement, and then you're going to put a higher demand on the triceps if you can get past that midpoint than really needs to be. When you transition over to having good alignment in the bottom, what's really helping you out that bottom position too, the strength you need is the chest and the shoulders. Obviously we want the back to play the primary role of loading that weight into, and that's what's going to help give you that pop. But chest and shoulders are going to play a huge role. So you're probably a little underdeveloped there. So I would do a lot of pause work and just time under tension in that range of motion, in that good alignment. All right. So not sure why you got into that overtuck position to begin with, if you were cueing yourself like that prior, but I would focus more on spreading the bar than you are bending the bar, because if you're focused on bending the bar and it's not connected to the back well, you're going to end up with that overtuck. If it's connected to the back well, awesome. You probably have good alignment for sure. But until you get that down, spread the bar. Just focus on spreading the bar, reaching, spread, reach, row is what I'll say. That's the cueing sequence. Spread that bar, reach that chest, and row it down. Okay? How useful are floor presses in your experience? Floor presses is something that I largely use with our equipped athletes, but not so much with our raw benchers. But depends on the setup. I do have some lifters who are training out of like makeshift garage gyms at the moment too, especially as things are kind of shut down in different areas, different parts of the world even. And floor presses are something that's on the table, just because we're trying to come up with some different variations as well, depending what they got. If they have a rack, let's get some floor presses, and especially if they need to develop that lockout strength, it's always on the table. But floor presses is usually a secondary bench staple in our equipped athletes programming. All right, and that's something for myself I utilize on a second bench day. Sometimes I'll do floor pressing, and I usually try to do that with an axle bar, or if I want access to that, I'll use a false grip. And if I can add chains or bands to the floor press, then I love to do that as well. Stevie says he likes the dome. Freshly shaved this morning. Sip of coffee to the working man. It's a good dome, if I do say so myself. Francesco Volcano. Hello, I realize that if I do volume in bench press or if I do touch and go, I lose stability. How do I fix this? So, what you're probably describing there, Francesco, is you're having a hard time maintaining position as you go through reps. And I definitely work with many who have that trouble, and that's being able to stay locked down with their scaps. And that's usually a back strength issue. And how we correct that, it's just a lot of ISO holds are good for that. Doing more reps and having a focus on maintaining position helps. Doing scap retractions, things like that, are going to help. So that'll help with the maintaining of that position as you go through reps. And then you also mentioned, so you lose stability, spending more time down at the bottom position with pause benching, and doing isometric back row holds. Those are going to be great things for you. So like a lying lat pullover hold, just doing a seated band row hold, doing a reverse band bench row hold, a high row hold, just holding weight or holding a row position 4 times, bringing a lot of attention to it. Only need to do like 20-30 seconds. Get your back shaking. That's all stuff that's going to help. Francis Drake, hey man, usually how many 225 touch and go reps to bench 315? 15 reps? Yeah, I'd say around that. I mean, that's so hard to really give you a roundabout answer because it's so far removed from a 1 rep max. So I certainly wouldn't use a 15 rep value to try to determine a 1 rep max. Anything over 8 is going to get pretty inaccurate. Just because you might be a really good rep bencher, but maybe shit poor at 1 rep. Or other way around, maybe you're shit poor at reps, but you're a great 1 repper. And obviously that's going to influence the numbers a lot. So a 5 rep max is going to get you a lot closer to knowing, like, you could estimate a 1 rep. 3 reps going to be even better, and you go down the road. So it's hard to say what a 315 bench should align to for a 225. I would assume it would probably be around that 12 to 15 if I was to try to calculate that. David, how do I know if the training volume in a given program is right for me? So if you're finding yourself having a difficult time recovering, if like you're getting some discomfort that you're not typically used to, if you feel like you're losing your motivation to train, is always a sign that you're a little bit overtrained. It's really just being aware of how you're feeling. If you're noticing numbers dropping, that's usually a sign that you're a bit overtrained. Okay, and everyone's gonna be different. There's no one size fits all. Everyone's gonna be a little bit different with what they can handle. That's why I always try to make careful modifications with our athletes based on, what they're telling me week to week and day by day in their training. Because if I feel like they're not recovering well and they're letting me know that in their weekly check-in, then we're gonna try to modify things and make it work to them. Okay, so how do you know? It's really just listening to your body. You're gonna know if you're ridiculously sore for a long time, which with any change though is going to happen. You're going to have that soreness. That's not always a good predictor of if you're able to recover from something, but yeah, you are going to probably know if you're doing too much volume. You're going to start to see those signs of having neural fatigue and even having a hard time going session to session. Man, my doc said I need to add some cardio. Does lifting weights faster count as cardio? In my book, it does. Something that I'll definitely do with our lifters is accessory work. There's always a good cluster superset that I hope they can do as like a circuit, very minimal rest in between to build up that work capacity and that conditioning component. Because that conditioning component is a big thing. That helps with recovery. You're able to recover more efficiently when you have better conditioning. All right, so being able to get out there and take walks, and I've even started doing a little bit more inclined treadmill, especially as it's getting colder out here northeast, out in New York. I've been doing more incline treadmill at the gym, I really incline that baby as high as it goes, crank the speed up a bit, and do a fast walk uphill. And, all that stuff is a important aspect, important component of training. There's a lot of ways you can condition to. John Sanders, even though I am still recovering from a shoulder injury, I recently benched an all-time PR of 405. Congratulations to you, bud. I am curious about Donnie Thompson style body tempering for my shoulder rehab. Thanks. Thoughts? Any advice? So I had some experience doing some of that tempering type stuff. Shoulders, pecs, always a tough area. I don't think you're going to be able to use like a large ass 150 pound type of roller. Chris Duffin, in partnership with Donnie Thompson, created like the boomstick and the pain pill. And those are things I like to utilize. It was really good digging into the pecs with those and rolling out the pecs and the shoulders and stuff like that. But in my experience, nothing's really beaten getting deep tissue massage by a good massage therapist. That time and time again proves its value each time. If I stop doing that, I pull my neck, I pull my back a shit ton, I pull my upper back a shit ton. But I'll pull my neck to the point like it's stuck like that sometimes very easily. Doesn't take much. All right, I forgot what I was doing last time I pulled my back, but I hadn't been to massage in a while, and really bi-weekly seems to be that sweet spot for me too. And that nothing's really helped me more than that. Honestly, that's been such a game changer, and I've told you guys that over and over. That's a real game changer if you can find someone that's good. Everyone's going to respond to different types of therapies, so maybe that self myofascial release with a boomstick or something will work for you there, John. But you'll have to kind of play around with what you're doing, whether it's you're doing something yourself, maybe you got a Theragun, whatever, or maybe you go and get acupuncture done, or maybe you try the what do you call them, the cryotherapy things, or whatever it is. You get ART done by a chiropractor. I don't know. There's a bunch of different stuff. I used to do FST on athletes. I was always pissed because because I remember when I went to learn FST, fascial stretch therapy, kind of like an ART thing. And man, did it feel pretty freaking awesome getting stretched out like that. But then I was doing it to everyone else. No one else knew how to do it. I don't know if there was many people in the area. I should have really looked it up more. But I was always like, damn, if someone could just stretch my glutes like this, while I was doing the stretching. But yeah, I mean, all those, just a bunch of different things could work for you. I like the deep tissue massage. I enjoy that. That helps a lot for me. So yeah, give it a try, my friend. The body tempering, I think it's good. I think it's more better for like the hamstrings, a little larger muscles, quads, glutes, your back, than it is like kind of pinpointing the pecs or anything. What's an estimated 5 rep max you would say equal 315? So I would take your 5 rep max, and I would, what do you do? Divide it by 0.87, and that'll give you a rough estimate of your 1 rep. That's like the same formula a 1 rep max estimator will give you. What do I think of dips for bench press gains? So dips, are you trying to do them for developing your chest or developing your triceps? Because how you lean is going to play a big role into that. But I'm not opposed to dips. Not something I personally do much of. I have been programming in dips a little bit more for our athletes. Keep a vertical base. Usually train the triceps, not the chest. But I'm not opposed to them. Do I think you can get strong without doing them? Sure. I think it's one of those exercises that's not going to make or break you either way. Can a big guy like you touch the chest when floor pressing? Well, thanks for saying I'm a big guy. I don't always consider myself a big guy, but depends who you're comparing yourself to. I'm certainly bigger than the average pedestrian. Can I touch my chest on a floor press? I get pretty damn close. I usually stop my floor press earlier than what you would normally see. Maybe someone stop their floor press. I stop my floor press when I feel the back of my upper tricep touch the floor, and then I fire back from there. I don't go until my arms flush to the floor or the elbows are touching. This for me, that would be pretty close to the chest, so that's typically where I'll end my floor press. So I mean, it's a good 2-3 inches up off my chest by then. And I'll usually do close grip if I'm floor pressing. TJ Leaves. Tips to keep my shoulders protracted. I can finally maintain my arch thanks to your helpful videos. It's awesome to hear, TJ. But I find myself reaching at the top of reps, especially heavy sets, and shoulders unprotract. All right, so I got a great drill for you. Before that, sip of coffee to the working man. Cheers, guys. Oh, you gotta keep that coffee flowing. Let's get it. All right, so you're coming out of that protracted position when you go to press. So how you're pressing the bar is going to have a big impact on that. You're going to want to cue yourself, press yourself away from the bar versus pressing the bar away from you. That is going to help you focus more on keeping that retraction as you go through the press. It's going to be really highly tricep involved. Okay, whereas right now you are letting those shoulder blades glide out. Whether that's you wanting to do that or not, that's a different story, because sometimes you'll want to keep them there, but that just ends up happening because you need a little more back strength. But that's what's happened to you, is you're pitting yourself into your shoulders there. You're creating that longer range. The key, I would do a drill called what I call the ceiling drill. I don't have a better name for it. You get the weight out. Someone behind you, your partner, they take a PVC. I would put the PVC pipe against, so that you're not moving it around, but pin it up on the side of the rack somewhere. But they're essentially measuring the height at which you start the bench press. So get that weight out, settle it into your back, try to pull it in, pull your chest to it. Then have someone measure it with a PVC pipe. Give you a little buffer room. But then thereon, your objective is not to hit that PVC pipe again. And I guarantee, just going through that drill, you're going to have a greater appreciation for how hard your back's got to work on the press as well. Okay, your job with the back is not done when you get the bar down to your chest. It's just beginning. You need to maintain that throughout, especially if you're doing reps. Listen, that's the difficult thing to do. That's why legs come into play too, to keep you propped up on your traps. So the legs help a lot with the positioning. But when you press, you got to think, lats, get that going. Triceps, lock it. All right, but you're not firing your arm through any more than that. It's very easy to. But you got to think short stroke, press your body away from the bar. Boom, just hit the triceps there. And that's all you need to do. Short stroke. I mean, I could travel a shit ton of distance if I want. Or I could lock in here. Right? That's all I need to do. You'll get better at it in time. I tell you, you look at some of my old stuff, follow my at Bench and Benny account on Instagram, you see some of my old stuff, my range of motion is like triple what it is right now. I was actually going through some other stuff the other day, and I was like, holy shit, I pressed the bar so far back then, as opposed to what I'm doing now, which is minuscule. I know there's a size component. I absolutely got bigger, um, but even compared to what I was doing earlier this summer, because now my warm ups are really stressing that retracted position. I'm working my scaps. I'm getting into the position I need to be in, which I was struggling with before. I didn't really realize, and now I'm getting in such better positions. I don't have to press as far. Makes a shit ton difference. So you'll get better at it in time, my friend. Check out our upper back warm up too. If you want to really maintain that retraction and just get into better positions, more arch per se, check out our upper back warm up. I'm telling you guys, that's probably been one of the most profound things for me in the past 4 months or so since my last meet. How I've been warming up my upper back before bench day, and it's not like anything crazy. It's not anything crazy. It's a peanut ball on the T spine, soft tissue down the T spine, upper back. It's scap retractions, going through full protraction, retract, hold it down, scap pull downs. All right, so I'm doing the same thing with depression as I'm doing with retraction. I'm reinforcing those movements, and then it's the big bend holds. I'm underneath the band. I'm reinforcing when I'm in that loaded position what I'm doing. And that's made all the difference. If that actually opens up any new mobility or whatever, I'm not sure. But what it's doing is reinforcing the things that I need to work on the most. And that was always not chasing the bar out of the rack. Settling that upper back activation early so that weight doesn't hit you like a shit ton of bricks. Recently, I've had good fair share of different handoff people, and I felt great with all of them because I'm creating that foundation for that weight to be loaded into. It's all this warm up. You can contribute it back to this warm up. Okay, so really been such a huge game changer. Check that out, upper back bench warm up on YouTube. Gonna be a game changer, guys, and let me know how it works for you. Okay, super amped about that warm up. Please talk about a rigged election. I do not talk politics when it comes to this podcast, nor business in general. I don't feel like that has a place, so you won't hear me talking about the election much. Francis Drake, how come Olympic gymnasts bench 2 times body weight without doing flat bench that much? Maybe doing a little bit of their training is a secret to big bench. I don't know too much about Olympic gymnasts training, but I'd assume there's a shit ton of shoulder stability if they're flinging themselves off those rings and all that shit. And especially if you're talking raw bench, a shorter bench, I don't think is going to be as, it's not going to transfer as much. But talking about a raw bench, they pretty much have the best foundation out of anyone because of the things they're able to do. They're strong as shit shoulders. They're probably they're strong all around. I imagine. I see some of those gymnast dudes. They look jacked out of their minds, very lean. But just the shoulder stability have, even to hang yourself like this, I feel like my arms would break off if I tried doing that. But that's why they would be successful benching. I mean, I don't follow any gymnasts really, and I don't know how much they bench, so I can't really comment. But I'd imagine that would be why. But I tell you, if you weren't brought up being a gymnast and you tried to do gymnast stuff, I guarantee you're probably gonna rip your shit up. It's not gonna take much because that's just too dramatic of a change. It's like if I tried to do any training that I'm not used to, that's such far out the realm that I would just rip my shit up. You'd get injured real quick. I can't even really do sprints right now without pulling my hammy. I remember I played baseball a couple years back. Thought I could still do it. Cannot do it. I did have 3 or 4 good games in a row. I was hitting some rippers, but then I hit a double that turned into a single because I pulled my hammy running the first. It just became a disaster. My arm would hurt from throwing, so it just spiraled downhill. But yeah, you train, you get what you train for. And iron crosses maybe too. I guess that's what they're called, iron crosses, right? I think I've seen some stuff at Strongman, um, where they have to hold it there, whatever the hell that was called. I forgot. The crucifix hold. What beer pairs with a bench day? Well, I don't discriminate. So any IPA is usually a go-to. IPA. Um, my favorite. I like Sierra Nevada. I know that's just if you're a true craft guy, that's just kind of just a generic brand. It's a well-known big brand. It's just selling out. But hey, I like their stuff. I like their stuff. Um, and I like Lagunitas, little something something. Sierra Nevada Hot Bullet is my favorite beer. I like more of those West Coast style IPAs. More bitterness to it. A little more dryness. I do not like that New England style IPAs. The hazy stuff, it's a hazy IPAs. Not a fan of that. Two, I guess like fruity, orange, juicy, whatever you want to call it. Not my thing. Good amount of flavor, but West Coast IPA type of guy. Don Moez. I've started to raise my glutes hips to unrack for the bench press, but I sometimes struggle and shake in the lockout portion before my first rep. Any tips? So let's see what you were saying there again. But I sometimes struggle and shake in the lockout portion before my first rep. Tips. So, um, you're bridging your hips up to get the weight out, and I assume the shaking is happening once the weight's out and your hips are positioned down again. If that's the case, I mean, that's a normal thing. I honestly like to see people shake because if I see someone shaking, or rather, when I hand that bar out, there's a moment before I release the bar where I can feel that bar gyrating with how hard someone's squeezing. That's when I know someone's got it down. When I can feel that, that's when I know this guy or gal's got it, because I know they're tensing up with that weight. And while you want to prevent the shakes as much as possible because you want to reinforce that position, get strong building that tension. The stronger you are building that tension, you're going to be able to handle more and more weight before you really find yourself having substantial shakes. Um, but yeah, that's something that I actually like to see more times than not. I mean, if it's uncontrollable shaking, you can actually really see, then you gotta build that position up. What I would do is just like lying lat pullover hold. So that would be like get a PVC, arms extended, drag that weight out as if you were unracking it, right? The bands are pulling back, so you're just tensing up with your lats. Okay, that's going to help you a ton there. Making sure you're retracting hard, when your arms are locked out with the weight, trying to pull your arms down as much as you possibly can, which many people don't do. All of that is going to help with that. So I'd really have to know like what position specifically, or what time you're getting those shakes. But it's typically because I'm assuming that you're probably getting the weight too much with the shoulders, or you feel like you're getting with the lats, but it's actually kind of the shoulders trying to stabilize that weight once it comes out. That could be the case too. Francis Drake, should OHP max be 60% of bench max? Saw it on T Nation. Yeah, if that's that Charles Poliquin article you're referring to, that's exactly what I would reference to make that, um, what do you call it? To make that a reference or whatever. 60% your one rep max. If you already overhead press more than that, overhead press is probably not going to give you significant gain to your bench press. If your overhead press is under 60% your one rep max bench press, you're probably going to see a really good carryover from building up your overhead press towards your raw bench. When is Big Bench's Brews, Brisket, and Bench and Bar opening? That's a great combo, my friend. Maybe one day when I can finally move to Texas, that would be the time to do it, right? Hey, Coach Ben, I've been progressing really slow at a 120-pound bench at 16 and 175 pounds. What kind of progression scheme would you recommend? So first, I really have to hear kind of what you've been doing there, Sid. But if you're 16 and you're what at 125, whatever you're starting at now, you're under 200. I would say 120 for six. Okay, so I would look to just get more benching in. You more than anyone could probably handle a lot more benching. You could bench upwards 3, 4 times a week. Okay, so you want to have more benching because the intensity is not so high right now. In the overall perspective that you're not going to be able to recover well from it. You're going to be able to recover well or better than someone else right now. Um, that being said, more benching is definitely going to help you out. And I wouldn't look much else than a simple linear progression. I think you'll do really good with that. 5 reps, dwindling down to doing a 1 rep. Um, how you structure that, you're going to kind of want to wave load it a bit so it's not just you leading up to a max, in 3 or 4 weeks, but, maybe you do some sub max weight leading up to a 5 rep max at the end of the month, sub max weight lead up to a 3 rep max, and go on like that. Mike, morning, coach. Morning, Mike? Can you talk about the takeout with heavier weight? Yeah, sure can. So unracking the weight, the big thing with unracking the weight is, and especially difficult when you're doing a self takeout, very easy to get your shoulders involved. You cannot press the bar back, nor can you press the bar up, really. It needs to literally be like a drag out of the rack. So you want to really reinforce spreading on the bar when you're doing a self takeout, right? Spread on the bar. You almost want to have that bar load your upper back as soon as you can. Because the key there is not disconnecting from your scaps. Your scaps need to be sucked down like that. Your arms need to be sucked into their sockets, so to speak. Think of it like that. Arms sucked into their sockets. Okay, doing a takeout yourself only pulls that out. If I'm sucked back into my sockets here, right, and I don't want to lose that, it's really hard for me to do any substantial pressing or lifting. It's really just bend the bar, suck back into the sockets, tricep over the lip, and drag out into my lats. And that's hard to get down. Most lifters are going to end up kind of pushing back into the rack and then coming out or pressing up in some capacity. And that's what you want to limit with an unrack. When you have someone to do it for you, all you're trying to do is establish that lockout underneath the bar, even if it feels like you're not in control of that bar yet, which is the hard thing for me as a shoulder bencher. So I have 900 something pounds coming out at me. In my head, I'm like, oh shit, this thing's going to load into me any second. I kind of want to feel it as I'm coming out, right? But sometimes, and the big thing, I can't sacrifice that scap position, that solid foundation with the upper back. As soon as I do that, I'm going to be pitted into my shoulders too much. It's going to kill my range of motion. It's going to kill my loading there into the lats. It's going to F up the whole bench. So sometimes I just have to prioritize. Even if I don't feel the bar, I know as long as I keep a good foundation here, even if it's still above me, I don't feel any weight. I don't feel any loading. I know when it does get loaded, I'll be prepared for it. Whereas if I was trying to reach with it as I'm coming out, that weight, it's taking me out of my suction, right? I'm trying to suck the arms back into the socket. It's taking me out of that suction, pitting me in where I don't want to be. So hopefully that makes sense. Just trying to describe it in different ways. Yeah, absolutely, Don. Francis Drake. Do you think that a 800 pounds bench will happen next year? I don't see why not. Looks like Maddox is out training at Wenning's gym now and getting some good work in over there. I'm sure he's learning a lot. For a guy who just pure expression of strength, but when it comes to technical prowess, you look at a guy like Kirill, he looked good benching. A guy like Maddox, kind of the complete opposite. But the weight comes up, So I feel like there could be, it's always tough with a guy like that because they're used to doing things a certain way. All right. So when you're trying to correct a heave bencher or something like that, it's always tremendously difficult because they almost have to go through a period of being a lot weaker before they get stronger. Something no one ever wants to do. Like you may have to eat shit for 6 months or a year, if not longer, to build up what you currently don't have so you can have a more structurally sound bench that could take you further in the future. That's the heave bencher dilemma. You can get to a certain point. You can continue trying to ride it out like that, or you can start introducing some of these principles of getting tight in the bottom and loading your lats properly instead of just being a pure expression of strength. Um, so it's really it's a tough scenario because you're asking someone to essentially, do shit that they suck at, um, in place of what they're strong at for a period of time. Sid Ninja, I've actually stalled pretty hard on linear progression. Went from 80 pounds to 120. I ain't under eaten. What are the thoughts on evolving reps? Week 1, 4 reps. Week 2, 5. So you could spin it like that. I would probably spend some more time just doing the lower reps then. Go from like 3 to 1. All right, different variations. Throw some overload in there. Where you're gonna find your biggest benefit. Sometimes when you stall like that, it's just you have to find your weak point. For me, at a time it was triceps. At a time it was upper back. Or once I trained the shit out of my upper back, that's when I made that 90-pound jump in my bench press in 2019. And went from at the beginning of the year at 705-pound bench, and I end the year at 820. I trained my upper back shit ton hard in 5 months in the summertime, leading up to that 820. That was the missing link. Okay, so you have to find that secondary movement, whether it's doing long pause work, maybe it's doing a close grip bench on boards, maybe it's a certain accessory movement. You need to find that key component, add that in and hit that more often, give that more volume. Sometimes it's not just benching more. Sometimes it's usually not your structure. I mean, if you got a good structured linear progression program, typically that's not going to be the problem. It's just finding, that extra that you need to do, that's going to build up that weak point. Okay. And then you'll start seeing those numbers climb again. But that's typically with the bench. What you got to dial in is that weak point and really hit that weak point training. Hey, Coach, Geopower 50. Hey, Coach Ben, being long arms, short torso, long femurs, and tibia, I need more back tries. What's a good volume amount to do for these in a session? So if you're trying to just put a bunch of exercise together in a bench session, usually we'll do like 2 back movements. We'll do about 2 or 3 tricep movements. Now, I found a lot of success lately in my own training doing these so-called blitz sessions, which kind of turn in their own sessions on their own now, where I just go in, I hit back, and I do like 5 or 6 things. Or I go and I hit triceps, I do 5, 6, 7 things. Okay, I just hit a bunch of these movements, do a bunch of different angles, bunch of different variations, just blast it. So those are a few things that you could do. It's hard because you're not going to really be able to pair one of those sessions with benching too, because I mean, who's going to be at the gym 5-6 hours? It's pretty crazy, especially you got other shit going on. You got work to go to, you know what I mean? So you bench, get some of that stuff sprinkled in there. Maybe another day. Back work is certainly something that you can do on a frequent basis. Maybe the next day you go in and you smoke back. Those are some ways to get some more volume in there. Darby Hodge, I'm struggling with my bench always being a JM press. Any advice to fix that? So if your bench is becoming a JM press, it sounds like the alignment's off. That would be like a higher touch point, turning into almost more like a tricep extension skull crusher. So I would look to definitely make sure you're bringing the bar all the way out on the takeout. Make sure you're locking the scaps down. That's going to help bring the bar out further. Make sure you're at a good touch point, usually a nice low sternum touch point, and then throwing the bar back. That will correct what I think that you're mentioning there. We're going to take a couple more here that we have. Don, what would be an effective way to program an increased bench frequency for a PPL split? Would you just do Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and just throw it in at the start before you actually do the workout? So would you just? I'm having a hard time understanding what you mean for a PPL split. Would you just do Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and just throw it in at the start before the actual workout? More bench frequency. So if you're doing like your traditional full power type of training in a week, and you want to add bench frequency, it really depends how your training's currently set up, but I would definitely have 2 bench days if you don't currently, 2 days dedicated to bench. If you want to sprinkle more work in after that, you could certainly fit in some benching after like a squat day or a deadlift day, whichever you find you handle more. Squats kick your ass, and do them on a deadlift day. If deadlifts really kick your ass, get them in on a squat day. Just some additional benching, maybe it's feet up, just something to add a little volume there. Push pull split. Yeah, it's just same type of thing. You would probably add some in on your pull. You'd probably have 2 bench days, and then you'd have a little bit of benching on your pull if you wanted to add more frequency. If you don't already have 2 bench days, that's where I would start. I would go to that. Sid Ninja, thank you for the detailed response, Coach. Just added pause benching this week. We'll definitely let you know in the comments how it went. Keep it coming to quality content. Appreciate you, Sid. Yeah, let me know how it goes. Shoot me a message, guys. Before we leave today, I'm just letting you know again that we have, for free download, is our 2021 Lifters Planning Guide, okay? Guys, this guide, each year, we put out this guide. I remember doing this guide back in 2019 because, again, goals are nothing without an action plan. Knowing your goals, knowing your action plan, achieving your results, okay? You need to have a plan of action going into the new year. This is going to help you do that. Again, 2019, I started the year with a 705-pound bench. In this planning guide, my scary goal, there's a section for scary goal. That's a big goal that you almost feel kind of absurd saying out loud to other people. My goal was to bench 800 pounds. By September, I achieved the 820-pound bench press. Okay, a lot of what helped me get there, I wrote down my goals. I wrote down an action plan. I knew what I needed to train to get there. I had a plan for the year. I knew I needed to gain this body weight. I achieved it. I ran through the plan. This guide is going to help you do that. Totally free. Okay, and I'm even going to do my best to respond to everyone that fills one out. Okay, to let you know what I think about your goal set in there and things that we could do to help you along. Okay, so I, again, want to try to, minimum, I think we're going to blow it away, but minimum, I want 100 people next year to reach out to me and let me know that we help them achieve a bench PR. Okay, I think we're going to blow that number out of the water. I think you're going to set multiple bench PRs. Let's just start 2021, guys. Okay, that's my goal. I'm trying to influence as many people as possible. We're going to get 100 people bench PRs next year. Okay, let's get this train rolling. All right, fill out that planning guide. I will talk to you guys next week. Thanks for joining in. Again, very, very appreciative. Everyone that would join in, listen to this podcast. Check it out, YouTube Live every Tuesday, 12 p.m. Eastern Time. Check out our other podcasts, Benchcasts, topic episodes on Spotify, iTunes, wherever you listen to podcasts. Search the Benchcast. I'll see you there. Thanks, guys.